I see participants are filing in. Welcome to participants who are arriving. Welcome to our much anticipated secondary hybrid learning evening, an opportunity for you to get your questions answered. Right now, I think we have about 350 participants, which is a good sign, and we're hoping to have a lot more. So we'll go ahead and give people an opportunity to get logged in so that those who are a minute or two late don't miss any important information. All right, we're at about 450. So still a lot of people logging in right now. I'm sure some people are just getting off of work. So we appreciate you spending some time to log in and learn a little bit more about what our hybrid learning is going to look like when we open schools in April. All right, 460. Let's go ahead and start. And I think in about a minute or so, entries are starting to slow down a little bit. So it looks like we've topped out at 464. I feel like it's a good time for us to go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to our secondary hybrid information session. We're really excited to speak with you today about what school's going to look like in April. So just before we really get started, just want to put today's event into context and our hybrid learning into context. It's been about almost exactly a year since we closed schools for what we thought would be 2 to 3 weeks. And here we are a year later, ready to finally welcome students back, and we're really excited. This has been a long time coming. When we were doing our reentry planning back in the summertime, we thought we would be having this conversation with you back in November. And so we've had a couple staggered starts. We thought again that we might be able to bring students back by the beginning of the year. And it really started to become a reality about a month or so ago, maybe a month and a half ago, when we got our latest guidance that cleared a path for us to start bringing students back. So we've been, we meaning our facilities, our teachers, our principals, have been working diligently to prepare schools to bring students back for hybrid learning. And I know that a lot of us on site had a lot of questions of what this would look like leading up to it. And I know that a lot of families have questions as well. So we're about a month out from bringing families back. And so what we want to do is just create an opportunity for you to get some of those questions that you have answered. And I know I didn't introduce myself, but my name's Ethan Udosinata, and I'm going to be, I'm one of 3 hosts. I'm going to introduce our other 2 hosts in a moment. But before we do so, I want to just guide you down to how you can ask questions during the course of this information session. So on the bottom of your screen, you'll see where it says Q&A. You can ask questions, and then we have people on hand to field those questions and answer those questions to the general public. We can answer questions publicly or privately. If it's a one-off, we might answer it privately or redirect you to your school principal. So to that end, what we want to do is kick things off by showing you a video of what a day in the life will look like with your students. So our communications team created this video. They did a fantastic job. We hope it's one that helps answer some of the questions that you have. Comms team.
Hello, middle school and high school families. We want to give you an idea of what school will look like when we begin hybrid learning. Your cohort days determine which days of the week you will come to school in person, and that could be on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Wednesdays and Fridays. Before you enter the school building, you will need to wear your face covering. This is very important as it helps keep you and the other individuals in the school building healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. We know this will be an adjustment for you, but you've done hard things throughout this pandemic, and we know you have got this. Also, it's very important that your face covering is covering your nose and your mouth, and that you avoid touching your face. Remember to clean your face covering every day. If you do not have a face covering, please let a teacher or someone in your school office know before entering, and they will help you. The way you enter the school building will look different this year. Your entrance will depend on your cohort group or grade level. Your principal will share these specific details with you as we get closer to launching secondary hybrid.
As you enter the school, you will notice these new hand sanitizer stations. We want to make sure that our hands are clean when we come into the school building. Please stop at the hand sanitizer station to clean your hands. You will also wash your hands often and have access to hand sanitizer throughout the day. While we will be performing visual screenings for illness, we do need your help. Please do not come to school sick or if you are not feeling well. Please reach out to your medical provider for guidance and remember to call the school office regarding attendance. When you head to your classroom, you may notice arrows on the floor. The arrows are showing you which direction to move in the hallways. Walking on one side of the hallway will help keep hallway traffic spread out. Remember to keep 6 feet of distance between you and your friends.
When you arrive at your classroom, you'll either use hand sanitizer or wash your hands and then proceed directly to your seat. Some schools will stagger passing times, so not all students will be switching classes at the exact same time. This will help to keep hallways clear. One thing to know is that we will not be using school lockers this year. You will be carrying your backpack with you to each class. Pack lightly, but don't forget to bring your charged Chromebook so you can work on projects and turn in assignments without passing paper around the classroom. If you do not feel well during the school day, please let your teacher or a staff member know right away. Your teacher will help you get the assistance you need from trained staff members. School staff will care for you and your health needs while creating separation of sick and healthy students while you're waiting for pickup. We are so excited to have you all back in school. Your teachers and other school staff members are here to support you while we all learn how to go to school during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And thanks again to the communications team for drafting that, or for creating that video. It's just a great example of what your child can expect when they return to school. So we got about an hour scheduled with you today. And let me go ahead and start by introducing myself. My name is Ethan Udosinata. I'm assistant superintendent here. I've been in the district for 1 year. I work primarily with the secondary team, which is why I'm hosting tonight. Something else that you should know about me is I'm also a Salem-Keizer public school parent. My son is a 10th grader and my daughter is a 2nd grader. So I'm especially invested in this process and eager to get them back into school as well. Let me go ahead and introduce the stars of the show tonight. So I'll start with our middle school director, Matt Biondi, and also Larry Ramirez, who is our high school director. They'll be walking you through the presentation today, and I'll go ahead and let them take control of the screen. Also, we have an ASL interpreter as well. So welcome to all that are here. Larry and Matt, you have the mic.
Great, thank you. Can we go ahead and put the slide deck back up? Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. My name is Matt Biondi. I'm the middle school director. I'm going to be taking you through part of the slides for this evening to try to answer quite a few questions that we know are on your minds as we look at coming back in person here just in a few weeks. So in terms of the actual time for reentry back to in-person learning, for middle school, grade 6, that will be the start of what we call quarter 4. That'll be Tuesday. So half of the 6th grade class would come in on the cohort, the Tuesday cohort, if you will come in on April 13th and the Wednesday cohort on April 14th. And similarly for the high school, the freshman and sophomore groups will come in by cohort on April 13th and 14th. The rest of the middle school grades and the rest of the high school grades will come in the next 2 days. And again, that's by cohort. So half of the 7th and 8th graders will come in on the 15th and the other half on the 16th. And they will join with the 6th graders who are already there at school. So once you come in as your grade level, then you just stay in and the other grades join you for the next days. And then so by the next week, the second week, all of our students will be full-time in-person learning every other day during the school year. So just to remind us, this is what we have been planning for since early last summer. In June and July, we spent a lot of time planning for what we call hybrid learning, and now we refer to it a lot more often as just in-person learning. And so it's the model where students are in cohorts and they come in for 2 days a week. And so your student or students, or you're listening to this tonight, you have already been designated for a cohort. You're either a Tuesday, Thursday cohort or a Wednesday, Friday cohort. And so if you're a Tuesday, Thursday cohort, you come into school now in person on those days, and then you would have applied learning on Wednesday and Friday. So really, if you think about what we're doing now, where you have live classes online virtually with teachers, and if you're a Tuesday, Thursday cohort, you know that you meet live with teachers. We call that synchronous learning. And so just think of it that way. Now, instead of having those live sessions at home, you'll be in person in school. So we're excited about that. So it just moves that synchronous learning onto your campus. In a cohort, we have organized groups of students into cohorts. And so as I already mentioned, there's cohorts for Tuesday and Thursday and cohorts for Wednesday and Friday. This helps us maintain contact tracing and ensures that we can maintain healthy environments and safety, and we ensures that we have the ability to support all of the safety protocols and the cleaning protocols that we need to do in order to abide by the guidance from the Oregon Department of Education and the Oregon Health Authority. So our number one goal is to continue to provide education, but do that in a safe way. And we feel very confident that we're going to be able to do that. So you might be wondering, what cohort am I? So we would really encourage you to look at the Parent View app. You can download that, put it on your smartphone. And if you look at the student info, which is shown here on this slide, you can see that the student's cohort is listed there to the right. And so this student is a Tuesday, Thursday cohort. So that means in-person learning for this student is on those particular days. And if you have a W and an F, then that's a Wednesday, Friday cohort. And remember that Mondays are still as they are now. That's a day for teachers where you would not have school. Teachers will be connecting with families. Some students will have opportunities for additional learning and additional support on Mondays, similar to what we've been doing this school year so far. So how will we keep students safe, your children safe, while they're here in person? So just some of the expectations that we have. And just as a reminder that each school, shortly after spring break, your school that you actually attend will be giving a similar session like this. They'll have a community night where they'll invite parents to come in, and they'll have a lot more details specific to what each school is doing for their specific procedures and protocols regarding safety and how to enter the school and where to drop students off and what it's going to look like in classrooms and hallways, and all of that kind of detail will happen by school after spring break. But just to give you some general guidelines, as was shown in the video, we do expect students to be hand washing and using hand sanitizer when they're entering the school. We would expect all students to have face coverings at all times during the school day. We will be maintaining physical distancing, and we've set up our classrooms, and we're currently working on setting up our classrooms so that they maintain the physical distance that we need between students. We'll be asking students to frequently wash their hands or to use hand sanitizer throughout the day. And this really means, like, every time students go from one class to the other, when a new group of students comes into a class, that classroom will be cleaned by the teacher or another adult in the room in preparation for a new group of students to come into that class. So every period of the day, that will be happening in our classrooms, so that the desks and chairs will be cleaned, as well as high contact areas like a doorknob, for instance, will be cleaned as each group of students comes in and out during the day. So we're really confident, as I mentioned before, that we can follow all of those safety procedures. We monitor that. There's new guidance that came out just yesterday that we are looking at and monitoring, and we feel very confident that we can have students back in person and to do that in a very safe way.
Hello, I'm Larry Ramirez. I'm the director of high schools. As I was introduced earlier, I'll take over here the slides. So in preparation for us coming back that week of April 13th, we've made some calendar adjustments that you need to be aware of. So the last day for quarter 3 will now be April 7th, which is a Wednesday, April 7th. Our students in the secondary grades, obviously 6 through 12, won't have classes April 9th and 8th and 9th, which is the Thursday, Friday of that week. So the last day would be April 7th, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Students would not have class. Just that special note down there at the bottom of the slide, if you're an EDGE student or family tuning in tonight, this does not apply to EDGE. This applies to students that are in the hybrid model, okay? What will hybrid learning look like? Okay, so students will have a new bell schedule for the days they're in person, so they're not going to be following their current schedule. We had to make some adjustments there. Obviously, as Matt stated earlier, students will either be in person either on Tuesday, Thursday as a group, or as the Wednesday, Friday group. Again, our Mondays will continue to be a time that we try to get extra support, make phone calls home, get planning done, and make sure we're ready for the week. So Mondays will look basically like they are now. Obviously, the big change here is bringing kids in twice a week, either the Tuesday, Thursday, or the Wednesday, Friday. So here's an example of what, we say hybrid learning, and we haven't been doing that. What's that actually going to look like? So the in-person learning piece, students obviously will be going to their class periods. At the middle school level, we're thinking about a 50-minute period. There could be a little bit of variation there between each school. And at the high school level, we're thinking basically an hour. Again, there could be little minutes switched up here and there as people have to accommodate for lunch schedules. But that is you'll be right close to that time. Students will move between classrooms, as stated in the video. If you got to watch the video at the start, we won't be using our lockers. We don't want kids next to each other using lockers, touching things that we don't need to touch. We're asking that we pack lightly, as the video suggested, and we move through our day with just what we need. Students, big bullet here in my mind is we got to make sure, obviously, that we have our Chromebooks or computers every day, and that they're charged, and that you also bring your chargers. So the guidance would be, obviously, we need your computer. I'd really recommend we get it charged overnight fully, and then that we bring our computer, obviously our computer and our computer chargers to school. There will be limited capacity to be able to charge up computers at the school, but we will have that availability, but really want you to come charged up for the day. That was kind of that next bullet that led into that as well. At home learning. On the applied days at home, students will apply what they learned in person. So if I was a student that was in on Tuesday, I'm going to get some independent work, some homework, some stuff to do on Wednesday while I'm not in person. So that would be the expectation. That would be what I'm expecting as a student and as a parent, that whatever I learned on Tuesday, there will be a follow-up for that the following day. So hopefully I explained that to you well. For both middle and high, support will be available on the applied day. So while I'm at home, I will still have access to someone at the school. If I need to call in to get some help, schools will set up their systems and communicate with you in their events how they plan to do that. But we do want staff available to help students. We don't want to have you in at school Tuesday, you go home Wednesday and struggle with an assignment and not have somebody available. We want somebody to be available to get you unstuck and to make sure you can complete your work and complete the learning that we have for you. I'll take the next slide, Aaron. Okay, here's a sample schedule of a middle school student. Again, it's a 5-period day. So this one is obviously a Tuesday, Thursday cohort sample. So if I was a Tuesday, Thursday assigned, I'd have my 3 periods, again, approximately about 50 minutes long. Somewhere in there, I'll have a lunch break, and then I'll do the periods 4 and 5. And then there'll be some office hours after school where teachers will be doing meetings, teachers could be calling home. And then again, you see the Wednesday, Friday slide over from each day where you will have additional opportunities to learn from what you learned the previous day. And again, we will have staff available. This is a sample here from a Wednesday, Friday for a high school student. We have 4 periods. We're on the 4x4. So again, a couple of periods, a lunch break, and then periods 3 and 4, and the same idea, some office hours after school for parent contact time, for meetings, whatever we may need to do. And again, the Tuesdays, Thursdays, we'll have staff available to support students that aren't in building those 2 days. Again, Mondays for both middle and high are going to look very similar to what they look like right now. We'll have some office hours, we'll have some supports available. We hope to be able to provide still extra support for students that may need it. Families who want their students to stay in remote learning for a variety of reasons. If you wish to do that, what you need to do is contact the school. You need to contact the principal, and they will go over their safety protocols. They're not trying to sell you on anything, but they just want to make sure that you understand all the precautions that are taking place, because we do, as Mr. Biondi stated, feel really confident in our procedures. But if that's still something that you decide to do, we have a way to hopefully meet that need in terms of staying and remote learning. The second bullet there, notifications will be sent to families that their student will be enrolled in remote learning classroom with an EDS teacher. Most likely, remote learning students will not stay with their current teachers. So if you elect not to go into the hybrid model and want to be basically all online, what we have is the EDGE program that can meet that need. But because of that choice, that will set up the student and the family to be enrolled with an EDGE teacher from the EDGE. So it won't so that's why that piece there is in red. You're not going to have the same teacher. That if I was signed up to be hybrid learning at South, I'm not going to have the South teacher now transfer over with me to EDGE to the online person. It would be the EDGE teacher now, not the South teacher that I was assigned to if I was going to do hybrid learning at South, let's say. The third bullet there, students will begin in their new classrooms when their grade level transitions to hybrid learning. So again, Matt showed presented the slide, what day you come in, if it's the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, or the 16th. That communication will depend on what grade level you're in and also what cohort you belong to. So if I was a 6th grader, a Tuesday, Thursday, I'd start on that first day. If I was a 7th grader, that was the Wednesday, Friday, then I would start Wednesday of that day, of that week. So anyway, that's what we're trying to explain here with that third bullet. It's dependent on your grade level and dependent on your cohort assignment when you start hybrid learning. And as Matt stated, once you start, you keep going. We add grades, we don't retract any grades, we keep going. Okay, I know we have a lot of questions in the Q&A section right now. It's about 115 I see going through there.
A lot of questions about lunch, Larry.
I'm sorry?
What will lunches look like?
What will lunches look like?
Correct.
Yeah, we're working through the details on that, honestly. And as Ethan mentioned earlier, we just got new guidance yesterday from ODE release that now the 100 contacts is not a requirement as it was. So that will hopefully, it does provide us some flexibility on lunch. Schools who will best answer this in the context would be your schools and how they're going to provide the lunch, because they're all, obviously, it's all in context of how many kids I can support in the classroom eating lunch, how many kids can I support in the cafeteria eating lunch, because we all have to do this within a safe space, and giving people their space to be able to take off their masks so they can eat. So that is also one of the pieces that the building principals will share at their presentations. But so that's a pretty vague answer, but it'll be in a safe place with a safe distance, and logistics will be hammered out at each individual school, because it's all in context of how that will be.
Larry, I can add a little bit more on that one. For middle school, I think you'll see in the middle school schedules, when you see them starting to get published, that there's multiple lunches. So 1, 2, and even 3 lunches at times in a day. So there might be a lunch for 6th graders. And so there might be 2 cohorts of 6th graders on campus, and one cohort might go to the gym to eat, and the other cohort might go to the cafeteria to eat. And so we really feel like we're, for the most part, going to be able to use those spaces, follow the metrics, keep people, students socially distant. And it's the other thing that's nice is the weather is obviously it's starting to improve, and will continue to improve, and it'll be middle of April before we start this. And so even access to outside will also be available more and more as we go through the end of the school year, which is also really convenient and timely for us.
And I guess I'll add on just a little bit more, because I don't know. Another piece is everybody will get free breakfast, free lunch, and free supper. So it doesn't matter if you qualify income wise or not. That's not something that matters right now. Right now, everybody's going to have the availability to have the meals at school and not have to pay for that. So that's another piece of that, because we really want to be able to feed kids and not have to worry about again, extra logistics and working around that. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that now that you reminded me of some of the extra lunch logistics.
Larry and Matt, they're asking about transportation, primarily social distancing on the buses, and will they be cleaned often?
Yes, the transportation department has a protocol that they will be obviously cleaning any high touch points areas, any the seats, and I don't know the actual details of exactly what they clean, but I know it's high touch point areas where students are at. There will be, I believe, on the bus, it may be 3 feet of the distancing, and I know obviously again we want families to wash their hands, students to wash their hands, and there's a requirement of wearing the mask while you're there. So I don't know if you have anything else to add on that, Matt, but that's what I know about the transportation piece.
Yeah, I think that's most of it. In general, you could think of it like a student per seat would be one way of looking at it. There are some requirements around distancing from the bus driver and things like that. I think one important thing about the bus, just like school, is that if your students are sick, if your children are sick, they just need to stay home. So that would be the other reminder about transportation or coming to school in general.
Yes.
Getting a lot of questions about Chromebooks, and if students can use their own device, or if they need to request to be issued a device if they have their own. Matt or Larry, can you attend to that?
Yeah, I'll start here. Yes, they can use their own device. Again, we want it charged just because the logistics of trying to charge that if multiple kids forget to charge theirs. So yes, you can use your own device. Please bring it charged every day. You don't need to check one out. If you have one available, then that would be best. And yeah, it's going to be every time you're in person, we're going to want you to have that available. Was there another piece to that, Ethan, that I missed? I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Just a lot of questions about it. So I want to make sure
Yes.
we said it verbally, just in case people are
You
on.
can bring your own.
Yep.
Bring your Chromebook and please charge them before you bring them. That would be great.
Also, a lot of questions about start and end times. Can you repeat those again?
Yes, for the high school, the start time, bell time will be 9:35, and the end time is 2:35. Middle school, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, for middle school, it's 8:45 to 1:45.
All right, and Gwen and or Sylvia, are you seeing any other trending questions in the chat?
Lots about COVID protocols and how often is the school cleaned and those kind of things.
Well, there's protocols each night for the custodial staff to do deep cleaning in a variety of high contact locations. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but each time, for secondary schools, as you know, we have class periods and students move. They will be walking from one classroom to the next, and then be going to a new class in most situations. And so while that's happening, those classrooms will be wiped down by adults in the room. So the desks and seats that students are sitting on, the high contact areas in the room, that might be things like door handles or those kinds of things, as well as any equipment that might be used or materials that might be used would need to be dealt with as well. So there's all sorts of different protocols in place for those kinds of things, as well as many others to help keep kids and staff safe.
Clarification on lunches. Some people are asking about going off campus.
That'll be something that each high school shares. I know there are plans where some high schools are going to have a closed campus lunch because they're able to serve everybody there and they have the space. There are other places where there is major construction that it may not hurt them to have some students leave campus to get lunch and provide space, but that'll be something that is delivered by each high school in terms of off-campus or on-campus lunch. And realize we don't want to be too restrictive, but at the same time, it's 18 visits. So we have to think about that as well. So if you are asked to stay on campus, we ask for your cooperation because it is, again, limited just to 18. It'll be 18 times that you have this opportunity to come to school.
I see questions, people asking about 5 days a week for students, and when is that going to happen?
Not this spring. As soon as we can make that happen, obviously we want the same thing. We want 5 days a week for our kids as well. Right now we don't have that ability to do that. We don't have the space to do that right now. But fingers crossed. We'll see what happens in the fall. But I don't. I really don't know. We're hopeful, but we don't know. As long as the numbers keep going down.
Something about hand sanitizer, wanting to bring their own.
That's for yes.
Yeah, students could bring their own hand sanitizer.
So that is a yes and not a no?
That is a yes.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend sharing it with others. I would recommend, again,
For their own use, yes.
Yeah, don't share with others. We don't want, and again, another touch point. That's trying to minimize contact.
I see parents asking about if they have two students going to the same school, different grades, are they going to be able to get the same cohort and go on the same day?
They should be assigned to the same day in cohort. If they're from the same household, that they shouldn't be assigned different days.
Yes, we spent a lot of time over the summer of setting this up. Like we were planning for this in the fall and we're unable to do it. So by your residence, we were set up everyone to be on the same cohort. So that hopefully will help K through 12, so that your whole family would be on the same cohort day.
I see a message from Aaron to the panelists. Will the schools have extra face coverings? Yes, we'll have entrances covered by staff. If you don't have a face covering, forgot it, whatever it may be, staff will be able to hand a student a face covering before they enter the building. So yes, we'll have an emergency stash, but again, asking that you do all you can to remember yours, but we will have some on site.
We have a couple people wanting to go back to hybrid now from Edge. Is that a possibility?
Right now, that is not a possibility. We are, we just don't have the capacity right now at this moment.
I'm asking about restrooms, accessibility. Is that going to be safe, clean, and all those kind of things?
Again, as Matt stated, there'll be a protocol. There are protocols, and there'll be regular cleaning. Again, it's going to be important that you wash your hands very well after any time you go into any public place like that. But yes, there will be regular cleaning, but between each single student, I obviously would say no, that it's not going to be clean between each student. That's why it'll be important that we wash our hands well each time.
Aaron has some, what did you say, Aaron? Aaron had some things he wanted to show.
Pictures of CTEC.
Yeah, from TTAC. But what was the other question I saw in here? Oh, Chromebooks. Some people say, is it too late to get a Chromebook if they need one?
No, it's not. No, it's not too late. I would just say that we will not be distributing them now. They would, when they return to school on the 13th or 14th or that first week of Q4, then we'll have the opportunity to get them access to a Chromebook.
Are there going to be a follow-up to this session?
Their schools will have sessions when we come back from spring break for 2 weeks. Somewhere in that 2-week window from spring break, there will be sessions at each school that we highly recommend that you attend those, because that'll put this in context for you as well. So the principals will have a lot more detailed information about their building.
Matt and Larry, I've seen a couple questions from parents come in, just wondering, is there any kind of orientation plan for that first day of 6th graders or 9th graders who have not stepped foot in their buildings yet?
Yes, that's the reason we're bringing in them first. And we're going to have basically all hands on deck for staff, so we can walk through the protocols, we can teach those, we can have students understand exactly the expectations. Obviously, we're all learning, but we spent literally thousands of man hours planning and getting ready for an exciting start to Q4. But yes, there will be explicit teaching on the protocols of entering the school, of passing time, of meal times, of exiting. Yes, all that will be taught explicitly to students in terms of orientation of how we're going to do this and do it safely.
In a question about face masks and what type of face mask can be worn, I think they're asking about face masks versus the gaiters. We're requiring face masks, correct?
I'm not familiar with the gaiters, but they have to cover your nose and your mouth completely.
The gaiters are those
Gaiters are the
cloths
ones
that go around your neck.
From your neck. We're asking that you wear the face mask, because a lot of those gaiters are 1-ply, and I know you can double fold them, but we really ask that everybody wear the masks, and obviously that the mask covers the nose tightly over the bridge of your nose, and obviously covers your mouth.
And I just wanted to follow up on the previous question about 6th graders. We will just have 6th graders by themselves those first 2 days. So 1 day each, just devoted to that half of the 6th grade class. And honestly, I wouldn't expect a lot of instruction going on that day or even the next day. I think it's going to be a lot about re-engaging, reconnecting with kids, building relationships, and a lot about learning the protocols and the different requirements and how this looks. Not only is it their first entrance into secondary school ever, right? But it's also into this new environment. And so there's a lot of attention and thought being put into how to transition our brand new sixth graders into secondary school.
I think we already mentioned this. People keep asking about transportation. There is some information in the chat on how you can find out more about transportation.
Yeah, I could mention something related to that, Sylvia. There is on the district webpage, there's that transportation link. And our transportation department, as you can imagine, is working fast and furious. They're finishing up with the elementary transportation schedule. And now they're on to the secondary transportation schedule. So I think one is to sign up for the rider registration would be really important and helpful for us. And then I would certainly by the week of April 5th, hopefully sooner, but the week of April 5th, you should be able to get onto that website and type in your address and get information on when, where your pickup location and your time is. If they can do it earlier, they certainly will, but they're working hard to meet that.
Did you already mention start times? I keep seeing that coming up. We did go over that, right?
We did 8:45 for middle school. Sorry, Matt. 8:45 for middle school, 9:35 for high school. Our start times.
I'm getting a lot of questions about what families should do if a student is anticipating being absent or if they are absent during their live days.
That would be something where we, again, would want, like in normal times, something normal maybe. Normally we want to communicate with the school and make the teachers aware, and then they will be able to provide the materials needed for the student not to miss out on their education. So it would be a contact, and our educators will provide that to the students.
And I think I could add to that, Larry, that that's why the bringing in the Chromebooks or the personal devices to campus is really important, because we're still going to use Canvas as the mechanism for students to complete their work, to do their work. And so assignments, PowerPoint presentations, video links, all of that will still be within Canvas for use for students that are there in person and for those who may be absent. So they'll have all that in one place, which I think will be really helpful. It also decreases on the amount of paper that we would be normally kind of shuffling back and forth between teachers and students and between students themselves. So really everything will be in the technology on Canvas so that absent students can just access it that way.
And we should reiterate for those who want to stay in remote learning, they need to do that. So by checking in with their school, is that what they do?
Yes. Call their school office and they will direct you to someone to talk to in the office and get that information from you and make that connection.
Some people are asking about advisory. It seems like it's going away once hybrid starts.
Yes, at the high school level, to keep 60-minute periods to right now, we're currently 85-minute periods. But because of our window from 9:35 to 2:35, that's a very short school day. So we're not going to have advisory. We're going to have periods 1 through 4. And if we do some type of advisory activities at the high school level, it'll be on Mondays. But it won't be through Tuesday through Friday.
So our class periods in the middle school, because we have 5 periods and not 4 like the high school, our class periods are shorter. And so schools are making decisions based on their needs on how to approach advisory. So that would be specific information that will come out in those school-based listening sessions after the spring break.
According to the schedule, would there be a free period?
No, not a free period. There's periods and a lunchtime. That's the only. There's no scheduled free period.
I have someone asking about, is it possible for my student to switch cohorts because it's easier on our schedule? And because of the elementary school, they have some in elementary school.
Yeah, that would be something where we'd have to check the cohort size, and we'd also have to check with, like if it was a high school student, we'd have to check with middle school and elementary, because we may have room, but they don't have room at the middle and elementary if their other students are going to be impacted. So switching isn't a guarantee, but it's definitely a request you can make. And if there's capacity to do that, we will definitely accommodate it. If there's not that capacity at the high school level, or maybe at the middle or elementary, then we couldn't make it, because we again, if we have to have room in those cohorts to be able to make that happen. But we're definitely receptive to trying to meet that need if we can. We want to keep families on the same cohort if at all possible. That is the intent of the plan from the onset.
Can kids bring their own lunches and bottled water?
Yes.
Sure, as long as they don't share it. Even the food we give them, we don't want them sharing. So yes, that's fine.
And is there going to be a graduation this year, and when is it?
There is going to be a graduation. They are scheduled in June. We were supposed to get guidance March 19th on what those will be like, but we were told by the Oregon Department of Education to anticipate they would be fall under the same type of guidance that we have for athletics at that point in time. So that'll depend on the size of crowd we could have for those graduations. But yes, we plan on having graduation, and again at a more traditional time in June that we've had in years past.
And just a reminder, we have about 10 minutes left, and then we have to prepare for our next session. But just a reminder that there's going to be a high school or a high school and middle school session for each building. So each building is going to have a session where they can answer questions specific to that building. You know, a good example of why you want to attend this is that each school has a different layout, so that it impacts the way that they would schedule lunch, for instance. So some schools may have lunch in the classroom, where some schools might have lunch in a separate designated space where they have room to physically distance. So there's going to be a lot of other questions that you may want to ask that are specific to the building that your child attends. So we really encourage you to attend those sessions as well, if you can't get answers to those questions between now and when we get back from spring break.
One question was, if something if my child comes down with COVID at school or ends up having COVID, what does that learning look like, or how do they transition from that to home or wherever, something like that? Sorry, the question just moved from me, but they were asking about that. What happens to their learning? How is that handled?
Well, there'll be a specific protocol that we all follow, whether it's middle school or high school, in terms of that's the reason for having the cohorts, so we can contact trace, notify people that may have been in direct contact with your student or another student that may have it, and then that may be a piece where we have to, shut down that cohort for however long is required. That learning, again, that's why it's so important that we keep our lessons on Canvas so students could still access that online and still continue with their education. So we don't want a COVID case to stop learning. We would just go into the CDL model like we're doing right now and continue learning that way until it's safe to bring everybody back.
There's a question about, there's been a lot of questions about PE that have been answered. Do you want to verbally share with people what the PE process will be in terms of dress down and lockers?
You want me to do that one? I'll start.
Sure.
We fully intend to have PE. I think this might be, maybe a little different from middle school. I think PE can be a little different middle to high anyway, but we are not going to be using locker rooms this year. And so I would anticipate that the activities for PE are going to have to be modified so they fit within what would be reasonable for students who aren't dressing down, right? So, and so they'll be still be PE, but it's gonna have to be modified in order to fit within those parameters. And I know that our PE teachers are fully capable of being creative and thinking through that. And also the middle school periods are right around 45 minutes or slightly larger than that. So that's also going to take into consideration in terms of the activities that may or may not happen. But the class sizes should be fine in order for us to be able to use spaces like gyms. And as I mentioned earlier, the weather is fortunately getting better. And so I see PE classes doing a lot of things outside.
Can you speak to the music program?
What specifically?
Well, someone's asking about choir.
Yeah, again, in the ODE guidance yesterday that I read, it is permissible. Again, we want the physical distance of the 6 feet, but you can sing with a mask on.
And for woodwinds, right? They can play. Larry, you can clarify that with me. They can play without a mask while they're playing, right?
Yes, and then when their piece is over, they go right to masking. And again, there has to be at least a minimum of 6 feet for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
so
only
really
the people.
Be able to
only
do.
The people. I'm sorry. Only the people playing would have their mask on. So if I was playing, Matt would have his mask on, and then when his piece or his turn would come up, I'd put my mask back on, and you would play.
I think the message that we want you to hear is that we will have all three of the music programs will be doing their thing, having class, and socially distancing and following the metrics. And so they will be playing or singing for the last quarter of the year together. So that's great.
And something that Matt's mentioned a few times tonight that I will mention here is it's also encouraged, recommended, or not recommended, but encouraged that if it's feasible to be outside, that you could do those activities outside as well. So if it's not pouring down rain, we hope to have some students outside being able to do that as well. We've got about 5 minutes left. Any other big trends that you'd want us to try to answer? Questions?
A lot of questions about how will families be notified if their child was exposed to COVID?
They will most likely be contacted by the school nurse at the high school level. We have a school nurse for each high school. So they will do the contact tracing, and then they will be informed from the nurse or from the school-based health assistant, depending on how many calls there is to make. Obviously, it's all logistics, but they would be contacted as soon as we know the contact tracing information and if you need to be contacted because your student was exposed. So that would happen right away.
And additionally, in the chat, I did put a link to kind of our Q&A, what happens when there is a positive case in the school building. So I'll repost that in the chat so people can click that link and read exactly what our notification protocol is.
Perfect.
And I would say that we have become best friends with Marion County Health and great partners with them. So we have really following, and we've increased our own medical presence in the district and just have great connections with them, following their guidance and really following their lead every step of the way through this process. So again, it's part of the reasons we're so confident about what we're doing around the health and safety protocols.
Great. One last thing, because I know we're closing out. If a family has a question specific to their student's need, like being able to bring ADHD managing tools and those kind of things, is that an automatic yes, or who should they check in with first?
They should check in with their building administrator to make sure we can do that. That's the direction that I would send them. It's not an automatic. It's a obviously we're going to try to meet the needs of everybody and try to get what they need. but they need to check with their building administration.
They could also help their case manager if they're served through special education, could be helpful for that. If they have a 504 plan, could be the school counselor, could also be helpful just to spread out, just because it just might be as quick to go that route as well, to start that process of getting that question answered. Great questions tonight, folks.
Yes.
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here and present and answer questions. I hope you had. I know we have 205 we've answered, so that seems like a pretty good start. But there's still 100 left. But really appreciate your time and your questions.
Yes, I echo that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. I know we're down to the last minute or two here. Thank you for taking the time to be present with us tonight. And again, I really encourage you to go to your, not go to, but tune into your middle school and high school events. That's really going to give you some of the real detailed information that you may want.
That's what I was going to share, that if they have additional questions, they could attend those events and get those answered.
Yes.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Well, everybody, thank you for coming. And look forward to seeing you in April, your students in April.
Thank you.
Good night,
And we'll
everyone.
see you in April. And again, please reach out to your school if you have questions specific to your school. But do know we're going to try to also publish information on our district website. Sylvia, where do they access that?
Oh, gee. If you go to the front page of the website, it will direct them directly to the post.
And we have
Because it's
FAQs on
posted.
there. So that'll be a good place for you to get your answers question at any time of the day. If you don't want to wait for somebody. We will have, again, those family information sessions as well. So we encourage you to access those too. Anywhere else they should be looking for information, Sylvia?
No, just the website. And also, again, this recorded video will be posted as well. This session will be posted.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you and have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.